A graduate of West Virginia, she served previously as Deputy Athletic Director at her alma mater, and she also served as Assistant AD at Maryland and as a Compliance Assistant with the Big East Conference. In 2020, she was inducted into the West Virginia College of Physical Activity and Sports Sciences Hall of Fame. Say that fast 3 times. She arrived at LSU in 2022, and her dynamic approach and ability to foster collaborative relationships played a crucial role in the growth of NILSU. It's here, folks, and it's here to stay, and it's extremely important in intercollegiate athletics. And under her, LSU ticket sales, merchandise, revenue, donor support, they've increased substantially. And we are very happy that she made the trip here today. Please give a warm welcome to Keli Zinn at LSU. Keli.
Afternoon. Thank you for having me, and really appreciate the opportunity to come down and spend a little bit of time with you. Super appreciative of anybody who has had any level of influence on the choice for Harlem to make his way to LSU. And thank you, Coach. We look forward to taking him off of your hands here in that next 4 to 5 months. So a couple things. Obviously, the world of college athletics is always a busy time. This year, we are celebrating 100 years of Tiger Stadium. And so we've spent a lot of time coming up to this season to bring online a number of things to both enhance the atmosphere and the memories that have played out in just what an incredible venue that exists there in Baton Rouge. As you all know, 100,000 strong, almost every game, and so it's a great opportunity for us to come together, celebrate our fans, our history, and certainly the future. We sit at 3-1 right now, and we'll play host to South Alabama this weekend, and hope for a special season, obviously, to finish out such a memorable time and commemorative in our history. Coach Deiser talked earlier and mentioned the money game. He didn't know I actually was going to plug that a little bit here today, so I'll take a moment and do that. But it's kind of part of what I wanted to talk with you about, because I tend to believe that right now there's really no greater time to be a football player moving into what may be an opportunity to do so at the collegiate level. And I say that because the world of college athletics, and not unique, right? We've lived this I've been in the business for about 22 years, and we've seen a progression of resources, benefits, and what we've been able to do for the student athletes specifically, not just for their development and for the educational value that exists at the college level, but for the first time 3 years ago, and as referenced earlier, the world of name, image, and likeness made its way to college athletics. And it's chaos, right? Everybody who follows it closely has read about that. I tend to believe there's opportunity in chaos. And what Kevin mentioned is a series that premiered about 3 weeks ago on Amazon Prime, titled The Money Game. So it was about 2 years ago. I get a visit from our PR manager, staff member who lives in the world of media and communications. And he said, hey, I just got off the phone with a production team who would like to come and film the world of name, image, and likeness at LSU. And I looked at him and candidly told him that I wasn't ready to be fired as the executive deputy athletics director, and no COO in the country with any sense is going to put cameras on such chaos, right? Well, flash forward to a number of months later, and I found myself in the midst of a negotiation with those 2 production teams, as well as Amazon Prime, about what it would look like if we turned cameras loose on a cast of student athletes at LSU and told the behind-the-scenes story of name, image, and likeness. And now here we are 2 years later. It premiered, like I said, about 3 weeks ago. I got a call from Amazon the Thursday of the first week, and they said that it was number 2 in the highest viewership of documentaries. It's been tremendous for our brand value. I tend to believe that it was a great opportunity for people to see through the lens of a number of pretty incredible student athletes, everywhere from the walk-on men's basketball player in Trace Young to the Heisman Trophy winner in Jaden Daniels. But a lot of people have since told me, I had no idea, right, that athletes were doing what they're doing and committed to it in a way where they're hustling and they're working through opportunity, they're balancing the athletics piece with the NIL and the brand management piece. And so we're pretty proud of it. But I share that because, as noted earlier, there was a moment where I said, no way am I going to do this, right? And instead, you figure out how to take calculated risks. And the risk versus the reward, as we moved closer to that, was one that obviously made it much easier than when it was initially presented to us. Now flash forward to what has been that chaotic scene. And if you're following it closely, you've heard of the House versus NCAA settlement. I mentioned, I've been in the business for over 20 years. And if you go back as to when I started, at the time, student athletes were limited to a scholarship at the collegiate level. Tuition fees, room, board, and books, right? NCAA said, that's it. And on top of that, you had all these restrictions that existed. Move forward a handful of years, and we got to a point where we were able to then give them, on top of tuition fees, room, board, and books, cost of attendance, right? Everybody recognized with some time and some common sense that athletes do not have the time in their days to work. There are expenses above and beyond those scholarship limitations that are going to exist. How do they pay for a cell phone? What if they need transportation? What if they need to purchase clothes? All these other things that their time and energy was spent both in the academic setting and the athletic setting, and as a result, they didn't have a lot of time to take care of that. Layer it with the fact that not everybody is fortunate enough to come from families who are able to send checks weekly to support those extra expenses. And so then cost of attendance came along, right? We then had a number of years later where they said, okay, there's a lot of money coming through college athletics, and there's probably more expenses beyond that. Lots of revenue coming in. It's fair that we share more of this with our student athletes. And so the Austin settlement came about, and you had what was called an academic enhancement fund that each year, on top of cost of attendance, we could pay $5,980 a year to student athletes who were meeting their academic commitments, staying eligible, and institutions who were able to afford that went on and supported their student athletes with that additional, for ease of discussion, extra $6,000. Well, now flash forward to today, and as soon as the close of the month, we are awaiting what will be a preliminary approval in a settlement that allows us to revenue share with student athletes beginning summer of 2025. So essentially what that says is, for the Harlem Berries of the world, institutions right now, if you look at the calculations that are projected, may have as much as $20 million that we can give directly to student athletes as part of that revenue share. It's significant, particularly for football programs, and the reason that I say that is right now, while there's speculation on how that money will be given out from school to school, there's question marks on whether or not Title IX is applicable to it. If you look at where that money's coming from, and as part of the settlement, which is a multi-billion-dollar settlement to student athletes, both prior and moving forward, you have a situation where the way that they've calculated that revenue share is TV money, multimedia rights money, and ticket revenue. Well, what are those three things largely made up of? Football, right? Football revenue, for the first time, is going to be brought into an institution in a way where there's a calculation on it and a microscope of a 22% share. And people like myself in positions all across the country are saying, okay, so if there's question marks on Title IX and there's discretion on where this could go, it's coming from football primarily, not saying all of it, but you certainly could get to a place pretty quickly where at least 85-90% is the case, Who should that money go to, right? Well, a lot of people would say that needs to go to football. And so do the math on 85, 90% of $20 million. At that point, you find yourself in a place where you've got a significant amount of money that can go to support your football program. So you're going to see a lot of things take shape within the upcoming year, similar to a little bit of the pro model, right? As to how you start looking at it from a standpoint of who gets what positions are most valuable, what is the need of an institution, and all that's being worked through within a number of our staff. But if you are not yet taking a close look on that and you want some reading material to help yourself fall asleep at night, you can also track it in a way because, again, it's going to be significant. Like I said, right now it's within the courts. We're actively seeking to settle that case versus have it go to trial. There's various reasons for that. And by the close of the month, we could see a preliminary approval. The likelihood of it to get full approval and then would move, of course, to implementation at the institutional level would likely be after March of 2025. And so there will be a quick period of time to get ready for that, to make sure that schools are using it as best to their institution and the success that is expected of them. So, as with everything in life, right, personally and professionally, preparation is the key to success. And while we don't have all the answers yet at LSU, nor does anyone else across the country, we are preparing accordingly for that day when that call comes in. And depending on what the circumstances of it are, we will react appropriately in hopes to find ourselves in a place in the future and a goal of ours to be the premier institution in the country. Give you a football product, right, that consistently year in and year out can compete for national championships, and know that I will do my part to try and make sure that happens, not only for Baton Rouge and LSU, but for this state that has become so special to me as I've made the move down here from, noted earlier, West Virginia University. Thank you, folks, and I appreciate your time.